If you can follow these 3 simple steps, your beat mixes will improve fast. And trust me, anyone can do these. These steps took my beats from sounding like this to sounding like this. Now, if you can't give me 9 minutes to show you these steps, you can carry on trying to guess your way through it. But if you want to save yourself months of trial and error and have your beats hitting loud and clean like industry producers, make sure you take in every step, because each one is going to be more important than the last. And we're also going to be using these steps to mix our own beat from scratch. And I'll show you my personal master chain that I use on every beat. So lock in with me. Let's get it. Step 1, frequencies. Alright, so I'm going to take one of my old beats and one of my latest beats. Try and spot the difference with the frequencies. As you can see, with the good beat, the frequencies are a lot more balanced. With the bad beat, the frequencies are a lot more erratic and the low end vanishes completely at times, which can sound good for some beats, but with this one, it just makes it sound empty as hell. Think of the lows, mids and highs like a pyramid. If any of the sections are too weak or too overpowering, the structure is either going to crumble or just look weird as fuck. If we want that clean and crisp sound, we need our mid and high end, but we also can't neglect the low end, because that's what's going to really make that 808 smack on speakers. Let me show you a few ways that you can clean up your frequencies. Firstly, if you're using an 808, you'll always want to EQ the lows out of your melody. If you don't do this, the low end of the melody and the low end of the 808 will clash, creating a nasty muddy sound. Second, the leveling of your sounds will do about 90% of the work when it comes to mixing. Too much low end? Just turn the 808 down a bit, or reduce the low end with an EQ. Too much high end? See which sounds are producing the high end and either turn them down or EQ them down. You get the idea. We're gonna go a bit more in depth with this, showing my personal master chain later on in the video. Step 2. Sound selection. Sound selection is probably tied with the next step as one of the most important parts to getting a decent mix. If your sound selection is shit, your beat's gonna be shit. If you use high quality sounds, you'll barely need to do anything to them. Just turning the sound up or down or using a light bit of distortion will be all you need. Let's play this old beat that I made. Absolute garbaggio. Now let's listen to a more recent beat. And as you can see, there is barely anything on any of my mixer tracks because the sounds are clean and high quality. Also, shameless plug, if you guys want some high quality drum sounds, definitely check out my latest drum kit. Has everything you need, link in description. Anyway, step 3, space, loudness and clipping. Now this third and final step is going to be broken down into a couple of little mini sections, so pay close attention. Using panning and space will add so much more depth and atmosphere to your beats. Let me show you a couple ways to do this. Alright, let's play this sample that I made. Sounds cool, but let's try using Pancake and automate these elements to pan around a bit. Just so much more dynamic and interesting to listen to. Let's take these hi-hats for example. We've got this free plugin named Wider on them, and let's see how widening the hi-hats a bit makes them so much more present in the mix. Now keep in mind, you do not want to make everything wide as hell, because the sounds will just occupy the same space and the whole beat will probably sound flat. And you don't want to have too many elements panning around because it will just confuse the ears. So just use these techniques where it makes sense. Don't go overboard. Now of course, if you want to make beats that hit hard, we have to utilize soft clipping. You probably already know this, but just in case you don't, soft clipping allows us to boost the levels of a sound without it exceeding 0 dB. If a sound exceeds 0 dB, it causes harsh distortion and just doesn't sound good. The only sound that I would intentionally soft clip is just the 808. Nothing else really. Following on from that, let's talk about loudness. Now there's a difference between loudness and perceived loudness. That sounds a little confusing, but I'll show you an example. Let's listen to these 2 beats and tell me which one sounds louder. Now let's play both beats looking at their audio levels. As you can see, both beats have around the same range of loudness, but because of the levels of the sounds, distributions of frequencies, and using space, the second beat just sounds louder, fuller, and more vibrant. Now onto the bonus step. Let me walk you through the master mixing process that I use on every beat. This allows me to make beats that slap on phone speakers. Alright, so we've got this beat and I'm gonna undo basically all of the mixing that I've done to it. There's a lot of moving pieces to this beat, like 808s overlapping each other, all kinds of shit, so hopefully this is a good beat for you to kind of get an insight into how I mix my beats. Let's listen to how it's sounding. First off, of course, we need the soft clipper on the master. I don't mess with any of the settings, I just leave it at default. Still sounds like shit, but it's a bit better. First of all, the melody's way too high, so let's drop it. I like to have my melody hitting at around 18 to 15. Also use an EQ to get rid of the lows so it doesn't clash with the 808. Let's unmute this clap. It's quite strong, I like it. Let's up these count snares a bit. This Vox is a bit too loud. Now I've got this perk loop from my drum kit, but it's just way too loud right now. Let's make it really subtle. I'm gonna put a pancake on that too. Get rid of the low end so it doesn't clash with that counter snare that I've got. And I'm gonna make it a bit more subtle. Now let's unmute one of our 808s. Sounding cool, but it's not really hitting how I'd like it to. So I'm gonna go into here and boost it a little bit. I've got this second 808 here, this chorus 808. Now that's way too loud. As you can hear, these two 808s are completely clashing in the low end. So what we can do is remove some of the low end from the chorus 808. So we just get these mids and highs, and it's a bit more subtle. We've also got this drum fill here, but it's way too harsh, so let's drop it. And let's add a pancake on there as well. Now that's sounding cool, but there's another layer of magic that we can add to it. First off, we'll use Fresh Air, which is a free plugin. Increase the mids and the highs too. As you can see, it just adds so much more clarity. Sounding more saturated, but that low end still isn't sounding how I want it to. So we open up Ozone 9, and I've just made this basic EQ, lowering down the low end a bit and increasing the mids. Here's off. Here's on. Now this next section, dynamic EQ. Most of the time I don't even bother turning this on, it's just here in case I need it. But if I want to, as you can see, I can use this to lower certain frequencies that I think are too harsh. As this is dynamic, it's moving with the beat. That's sounding pretty good, but there's just one more step that I usually do. You do not need to do this. It's just personal preference for me. I throw on an imager. So what I've done is made a couple bands, select two pieces of our high end, this and this. And what I've essentially done is just widen the higher frequencies. It's very subtle. But personally, if you ask me, all you really need is a soft clipper and some Fresh Air on the master. All this shit is just me being extra. Also keep in mind that the order of your plugins matters. So your soft clipper should always go last in your master chain. Now while there's a lot more to be learned about mixing, this is all you really need to make great beats today. But if you want to see all these tips in action, you should probably watch this video next.